Ellie Dawson rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the screen. The night shift at the Lunar Communications Hub was usually quiet, but something about this database error kept bothering her. She had been working as a NASA technician for 3 years, and she had never seen anything like it. Still trying to fix that glitch. Asked her coworker Sam as he passed by with a cup of coffee. It's not just a glitch, Ellie said. There's a whole quarantine folder that hasn't been checked since 2028. Almost 60 years of data sitting there. Sam shrugged. Probably just space junk signals. You know how it is. The system flags anything unusual, and no one ever bothers to clear the queue. But Ellie couldn't let it go. She clicked on the folder labeled Potential Extraterrestrial Origin and watched as thousands of messages populated her screen. Her heart began to race. This can't be right, she whispered. She picked up her phone and called her supervisor, Gregory Holt. Despite it being 3 a.m. lunar time, he answered on the third ring. This better be important, Dawson. Sir, I think you need to come see this. Now. 30 minutes later, Gregory stood behind Ellie's chair, his face pale as they scrolled through message after message. The earliest ones were written in strange symbols that gradually evolved into something resembling English, as if the sender had been learning the language over time. They've been trying to contact us for decades, Gregory said, his voice barely above a whisper. And we've been ignoring them. Ellie opened the first decipherable message, dated March 12, 2028. To the people of Earth, we, the Arcturian Alliance, seek your assistance. A species known as the Vexari has begun attacking worlds in the Orion Arm. They show no mercy. They give warning before they strike, as their code demands, but none have been able to resist them. Our scientists believe your world possesses unique resources that may help us. Please respond. Message after message showed increasing desperation. Reports of planets falling. Civilizations being wiped out or enslaved. Technical information. Battle strategies. The Arcturians had been sending everything they could to help Earth prepare. Why wasn't this flagged? Gregory asked, scrolling faster now. Why didn't anyone see this? The system was set up to quarantine potential extraterrestrial communications for manual review, Ellie explained. But after the budget cuts in the 2020s, I guess no one was assigned to check this folder. The messages just kept piling up. Gregory pulled out his tablet and made a call. Director Pierce, I need you to initiate emergency protocol Omega. Yes, sir. Confirmed extraterrestrial contact. No, not new contact. We've been receiving messages for 60 years, and nobody noticed. Ellie continued scrolling until she reached the most recent message, dated just 3 weeks ago. Unlike the detailed reports before it, this one contained only 7 words. They're coming for you next. Prepare yourselves. She felt a chill run down her spine. How many messages are there? Gregory asked after ending his call. Ellie checked the folder count. 8,734 distinct communications. The frequency increased over time. Start downloading everything. The director is assembling an emergency response team. We need to know what we're dealing with. As Ellie began the download, she found herself thinking about all those years of silence, all those warnings, all that information, sitting unread in a forgotten digital folder, while civilizations across the galaxy fell one by one. Do you think we still have time? She asked quietly. Gregory looked at the final message again and frowned. I don't know, but we're going to find out. Outside the window of the lunar hub, Earth hung in the darkness, beautiful and blue and completely unaware that its 60 years of silence had just run out. The United Nations Space Command Headquarters buzzed with activity. It had been 48 hours since Ellie's discovery, and the world's leaders were still trying to process what it meant. Director Franklin Pierce paced the length of the conference room as the emergency response team he had assembled worked frantically around him. What do we know so far? He asked, stopping to look at the large display screen showing a map of the galaxy. Dr. Amanda Wells, the lead Sino-linguistics expert, stood up, Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "I've decoded about 30% of the message archive. It's worse than we thought, sir. The Vexari have conquered 37 civilizations across the galaxy in the last 60 years. Some fought back. None succeeded. And we just sat here with our heads in the sand." Pierce muttered. "What about recent communications? Any response to our broadcasts?" Paul Winters, the communications specialist, shook his head. "We've been sending messages on all frequencies for the past day. 6 hours ago, we received this automated reply." He tapped his tablet, and a message appeared on the main screen. "Communication request denied. Your species has been marked for subjugation." A heavy silence fell over the room. "What does that mean for us?" asked Pierce. Dr. Wells cleared her throat. "Based on the patterns I'd found in the messages, the Vexari follow a specific protocol. They send warnings, wait for a response, and if there is none, or if the response is deemed inadequate, they proceed with invasion." "But we didn't respond because we didn't know," protested Ellie, who had been brought to Earth for the emergency meetings. "Surely they must understand that." "I don't think they care," said Dr. Wells. "From what I can tell, the warnings are just a formality, part of their conquest ritual. They probably expected us to ignore them like everyone else did." The door to the conference room burst open, and a young officer rushed in. "Director Pierce, we're picking up multiple objects entering the solar system. They just appeared at the edge of Neptune's orbit." Pierce turned to the team's astrophysicist. "How is that possible?" "Faster than light travel," said Dr. Alan Brock, looking at the data on his tablet. "The Arcturians mentioned this in their messages. The Vexari have technology that allows them to bend spacetime." "How many ships?" asked Pierce. 7, replied the officer. "And they're massive. Our largest estimates put them at about 3 miles long each." Paul Winters looked up from his console with fear in his eyes. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead ship. They're requesting permission to send a single shuttle to the United Nations headquarters. They want to talk." Pierce sounded skeptical. "No," said Dr. Wells, still reading through translated messages. "This is part of their protocol, too. They sent an ambassador to deliver terms of surrender in person. It's a show of power." Pierce rubbed his forehead. "How long until they reach Earth orbit?" "At their current speed," said Dr. Brock, 96 hours. "And if we refuse to meet with this ambassador?" Dr. Wells looked grim. "According to the Arcturian messages, immediate attack." Pierce nodded slowly. "Then we meet with them. Meanwhile, I want every piece of information from those messages analyzed. Look for weaknesses, battle tactics, anything we can use." "Sir," said Ellie, who had been quiet for most of the meeting, "there's something else in the messages. The Arcturians sent us technical specifications of Vexari weapons and ships. I've only looked at a small part, but it seems detailed." For the first time, a flicker of hope appeared on Pierce's face. "Get that data to our military engineers immediately. Dr. Wells, continue the translations. Everyone else, prepare for first contact." As the team dispersed, Ellie stared at the radar screen showing the incoming Vexari ships. Earth had missed its chance to prepare properly, but maybe, just maybe, those forgotten messages still held the key to survival. The Vexari shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere with a strange grace that belied its alien design. People across New York City stopped and stared at the sky as the dark, angular craft lowered itself toward the United Nations Plaza. Military personnel formed a perimeter around the landing zone while world leaders watched from the safety of the General Assembly Hall. NASA engineer Kyle Ramsey stood beside Director Pierce, tracking the main Vexari fleet on his tablet. "The 7 ships have taken position just beyond lunar orbit. They could reach us in minutes if they wanted to." Pierce nodded grimly. "Let's hope this meeting buys us time." The shuttle touched down with barely a sound. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then a seam appeared in its smooth surface, widening into a doorway. A ramp extended to the ground. The creature that emerged stood nearly 8 feet tall. Its body was covered in overlapping plates that looked like a cross between armor and scales. 4 arms hung at its sides, each ending in long, flexible fingers. Its face was strangely human-like, with 2 forward-facing eyes that glowed a deep amber. But the similarity ended there. Its mouth was a vertical slit surrounded by small sensory tentacles that continuously moved and tasted the air. The Vexari ambassador walked down the ramp with deliberate steps. 2 smaller aliens followed, carrying ornate devices that looked like a cross between tablets and weapons. "Remember," Dr. Wells whispered to the reception committee, "according to the Arcturian messages, they value displays of strength. Do not show fear." The ambassador stopped 10 feet from the human delegation. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, though the voice had a strange, multi-toned quality. "I am Ambassador Drekthar of the Vexari Dominion. I come to deliver the terms of your world's surrender." Director Pierce stepped forward. "I am Franklin Pierce, representing Earth. We have not agreed to surrender." Drekthar's mouth tentacles twitched in what might have been amusement. "Your agreement is not required. It is merely a courtesy we extend to all species before their subjugation." "We would like to discuss alternatives to subjugation," Pierce said evenly. The ambassador's glowing eyes narrowed. "There are no alternatives. The Vexari require your world's resources and your people's labor. You were warned, as our code demands. You chose not to respond. We only just discovered your messages," Pierce explained. "They were irrelevant," Drekthar interrupted. "Our protocol was followed. Warnings were sent. Your failure to monitor your communications is not our concern." One of the smaller Vexari handed Drekthar a device. The ambassador pressed several symbols, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. It showed Earth, surrounded by the 7 Vexari ships. "In 72 of your hours, we will begin the cleansing of your military installations. After that, your governments will fall. Those who surrender immediately will serve. Those who resist will be eliminated." Dr. Wells stepped forward. "Ambassador, surely we can." "The terms are not negotiable," Drekthar said. "Your species had 60 years to prepare or respond. You did neither. Now you will face the consequences of your negligence." Pierce stood his ground. "And if we refuse these terms?" Drekthar's mouth tentacles formed what might have been a smile. "Every species asks this question. None have succeeded in resistance. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your ships cannot match our speed. Your world is already ours." The ambassador turned to leave, then paused. "It is almost disappointing. The Arcturians seemed to believe your species had potential. They wasted much effort trying to warn you." As the Vexari delegation returned to their shuttle, Kyle Ramsey leaned toward Pierce. "Did you notice? He practically told us the Arcturian messages contained something valuable." Pierce nodded slightly. "Get back to the command center. Tell them to focus on anything related to Vexari shield technology." The shuttle rose into the sky with the same eerie silence with which it had arrived. As it disappeared into the clouds, Pierce turned to the assembled leaders. "We have 72 hours to find a way to fight back. Let's not waste a single minute." The command center beneath the Pentagon was filled with people working around the clock. Screens displayed the positions of the Vexari ships, which had spread out to form a ring around Earth. 60 hours remained until their deadline. Olivia Blackwood walked into the room with a tablet in her hand. As one of Earth's top military strategists, she had been analyzing the technical data from the Arcturian messages for 2 days straight. "I found something," she announced, her voice cutting through the noise. The room fell silent as she approached Director Pierce. "The Vexari shields have a weakness." Pierce looked up from his console. "What kind of weakness?" "Their shield technology uses a specific frequency modulation to block energy weapons, but according to these specifications, there's a resonance point where the shields become unstable." She showed him the diagrams on her tablet. "If we can hit them with precisely calibrated energy beams at this frequency, we might be able to disrupt their shields long enough to do some damage." Can we build weapons that use this frequency? Pierce asked. Not from scratch, not in the time we have, Olivia admitted. But we might be able to modify existing technology. At that moment, Colonel Zachary Bennett entered the room. Sir, I have an idea about that. The Mars mining station has several high-powered industrial lasers. They're designed to cut through asteroid material. If we could reprogram them to match this frequency. Pierce nodded. Do it. Take whatever personnel and resources you need. As Bennett left to begin preparations, news came in from around the world. Nations were setting aside their differences and pooling their resources. The threat of extinction had unified humanity in ways that nothing else ever had. In China, factories worked around the clock to build modified satellite weapons. In Russia, their best scientists adapted missile guidance systems to the new specifications. The European Space Agency converted its orbital platforms into defensive stations. The newly formed Earth Defense Coalition coordinated these efforts. For the first time in history, every country on the planet was working toward a single goal: survival. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, scientists Lisa Rodriguez and Daniel Washington led a team repurposing communication satellites into a defensive grid. The Vexari won't expect this level of coordination, Lisa said as she adjusted the targeting systems. According to the messages, most species they encountered were still fighting among themselves when the Vexari arrived. Daniel nodded as he calibrated the energy output. That's our advantage. We may not have their technology, but we have unity now. On Mars, Colonel Bennett and his team worked frantically to convert the mining station's lasers. The process was delicate. One wrong calculation, and the weapons would be useless against Vexari shields. Test firing in 3, 2, 1, called out a technician. The modified laser fired at a test target, producing exactly the frequency Olivia had specified. A cheer went up from the tired team. Bennett immediately contacted Earth. Director, the Mars platform is operational. We can hit the resonance frequency. Back at the command center, Pierce allowed himself a small smile. Good work, Colonel. Now we need to coordinate the global defense systems to strike simultaneously. If we hit all 7 ships at once, they won't be able to adapt. Olivia looked at the tactical display showing the Vexari fleet. They're positioning their ships in standard conquest formation, just like the Arcturians described. They have no idea we know their playbook. Let them keep thinking that, Pierce said. We'll only get one chance at surprise. As Earth prepared for battle, the Vexari continued their methodical preparations for planetary subjugation. Following the same protocol that had brought them 37 consecutive victories, they positioned their weapons for maximum efficiency. What they didn't know was that their carefully guarded tactical information had been sitting in Earth's unread mailbox for decades. And now, humanity was finally ready to use it. 24 hours remained until the Vexari deadline. In a secured room at NASA headquarters, Dr. Amanda Wells made an unexpected discovery as she continued translating the Arcturian messages. Director Pierce, she called out, excitement in her voice. The messages contain more than just warnings and technical data. There's a complete virtual library embedded in the transmissions. Pierce hurried over to her workstation. What kind of library? Knowledge from dozens of civilizations. The Arcturians gathered technology, history, and cultural information from every world the Vexari conquered. They sent it all to us, hoping we could use it if they fell. She pulled up a series of complex diagrams on her screen. This is just a fraction of what's here. Propulsion systems, weapons designs, medical technology. It's like they were trying to preserve everything they could. Computer scientist Henry Jackson joined them, his eyes widening as he scrolled through the data. This is incredible. With this information, we could advance Earth's technology by centuries. If we survive the next day, Pierce reminded them grimly, focus on anything we can use against the Vexari now. We can explore the rest later. Henry nodded. I'll get a team on it right away. Across the globe, the pace of preparations increased. In orbit, Engineers Stephanie Gonzalez and Marcus Wright worked in spacesuits to install shield generators on key satellites. The technology had been adapted from blueprints in the Arcturian library. "How's it looking?" Stephanie asked as she connected the final power coupling. Marcus checked the readings on his wrist computer. Power levels are stable. This shield design is decades beyond anything we've developed. But it's working. "Let's hope it holds against Vexari weapons," Stephanie said. On the ground, military bases converted their defense systems to match the specifications found in the messages. Civilian populations moved into underground shelters. The world waited. In the command center, Dr. Wells continued her work with the translations. She came across personal accounts from survivors of Vexari attacks, describing their battle tactics in detail. "They always follow the same pattern," she told Pierce. "First, they target military installations, then communication centers. Then they take out power grids. It's methodical, almost ritualistic. And they never deviate from this approach." Pierce asked. "Never." The messages described 17 different battles on different worlds. The Vexari used identical tactics every time. They don't adapt because they've never needed to. No one has ever successfully fought back. Pierce studied the tactical display showing the positions of the Vexari ships. They're moving into the exact formation described in the messages. "They think we're just another primitive world," Olivia Blackwood said, joining them at the display. "They have no idea we know what's coming." In orbit, the Vexari ships adjusted their positions with mechanical precision. Inside the flagship, Admiral Drekthar prepared for the attack that would subjugate yet another world for the Dominion. "Begin the bombardment sequence," he ordered. "Target their military bases first, as always." His officers moved with practiced efficiency, having performed this same task dozens of times before. None of them questioned the approach. None of them suggested caution. Why would they? The Vexari had conquered 37 worlds without a single defeat. "Admiral," one of his officers reported, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from the Red Planet." Drekthar dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Irrelevant. Their colony there is too small to pose any threat. Focus on the primary targets." As the Vexari prepared their weapons, Earth's defenders watched and waited. The knowledge that had sat unread in their digital mailbox for 60 years was now their greatest weapon. Every move the Vexari would make had been documented by their previous victims. Every weakness in their seemingly impenetrable defenses had been mapped and analyzed. All that remained was to see if humanity could do what no other species had managed. The countdown to the Vexari deadline continued, but for the first time, Earth was ready to fight back. The deadline arrived. On the Vexari command ship, Admiral Drekthar gave the order to begin the attack. Massive energy weapons powered up, their glow visible even from Earth's surface. People around the world watched their skies, knowing what was coming. "They're charging weapons," reported an officer in the Earth Defense Command Center. On the main screen, all 7 Vexari ships glowed with building energy. Director Pierce took a deep breath. "All defense stations, stand by. Let them fire first." The first Vexari blast streaked toward Earth, aiming for the military base in Colorado. 6 more beams followed, targeting major installations around the globe. As the deadly energy approached, Pierce gave the order. "Activate shields." The modified satellite network came to life. Shields based on Arcturian technology formed a protective layer above each target. The Vexari beams struck the shields, which glowed brightly but held. Admiral Drekthar stared in disbelief at his tactical display. "Impossible. They have shield technology." "How did they?" He was interrupted as alarms blared across his ship. "Admiral, energy spike detected from the 4th planet." On Mars, Colonel Bennett watched as the mining platform's main laser reached full power. "Target locked on Vexari command ship. Firing now." The massive laser fired, its beam precisely calibrated to the frequency Olivia had identified. It struck the Vexari flagship shields. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, exactly as the Arcturian data had predicted, the Vexari shields began to flicker and destabilize. Areas of the massive ship became exposed. All Earth defense platforms, fire now, Pierce ordered. Around the planet, the hastily assembled weapons grid activated. Satellites, ground-based lasers, and converted missile systems all fired at once. Each weapon had been modified to match the frequency that disrupted Vexari shields. The Vexari fleet, which had spread out to attack multiple targets, was caught unprepared. Their shields, designed to be impenetrable, faltered against the precisely calibrated assault. How is this possible? Admiral Drekthar demanded as his ship shuddered under the assault. They're using our shield frequency. His weapons officer turned to him with fear in his eyes. Admiral, they're using Arcturian shield modulation. And their attack pattern, it's designed specifically to counter our defenses. For the first time in centuries of conquest, the Vexari faced an enemy who knew their weaknesses. The Mars platform fired again, this time joined by weapons stations on the moon. The combined beams struck the Vexari flagship with devastating effect. On Earth, people watched in amazement as the seemingly invincible alien fleet began to take damage. The coordinated attack continued, focusing on one ship at a time as the tactical data from the Arcturian messages had suggested. In the command center, Dr. Wells monitored the battle alongside Pierce. They're following the contingency patterns described in the messages, she said. When damaged, they'll try to regroup and concentrate their shields. Perfect, said Olivia. That's exactly what we want them to do. She turned to the communications officer. Tell the Mars platform to prepare the modified EMP burst. The Vexari ships moved closer together, combining their shield strength as their tactical doctrine demanded. It was a strategy that had saved them in the few instances when they had faced meaningful resistance. But this time, it played directly into Earth's hands. Colonel Bennett watched as the Vexari formation tightened. They're in position. Firing EMP burst now. The Mars platform released a massive electromagnetic pulse, specially designed based on the Arcturian data. It passed through the small gaps in the Vexari shields and disrupted their internal systems. Admiral Drekthar watched in horror as his ship's controls failed. This cannot be happening. How do they know our tactics? How do they have this technology? Across the Vexari fleet, systems failed as the carefully calibrated pulse did its work. The mighty ships, which had brought terror to dozens of worlds, drifted helplessly in space. In the Earth Command Center, a cheer went up as the tactical display showed the Vexari fleet's weapons going offline. They had achieved what no other species had managed in 60 years of Vexari conquest. They had fought back successfully. 3 days after Earth's successful defense, a small team led by Colonel Bennett approached one of the disabled Vexari ships. The Earth Defense Coalition had decided to capture a scout vessel rather than destroy it. They needed to understand more about the enemy and, if possible, find a way to communicate with other worlds. Boarding team in position, Bennett reported as they reached the airlock. Engineers had spent the past day figuring out how to access the alien vessel without triggering any defense systems. Proceed with caution. Director Pierce's voice came through the radio. Remember, we need their communication systems intact. The team cut through the final barrier and entered the Vexari ship. Inside, the few crew members were incapacitated by life support failures. Earth scientists had studied the Arcturian data on Vexari biology and developed a non-lethal approach to subduing them. This way, said Ellie Dawson, who had joined the boarding team. After discovering the messages, she had become an expert on Vexari technology. The communications hub should be straight ahead. They found the central control room and began working immediately. Henry Jackson connected his equipment to the alien technology. It's just like the diagrams in the Arcturian library, he said as he worked. I should be able to access their communication network. While the team worked, similar scenes played out across the solar system. Earth forces had disabled the Vexari fleet without destroying it completely. The strategy had been deliberate. They needed the Vexari ships intact to learn from them. In the command center, Dr. Wells watched as Henry's team made progress. "They're in," she announced as data began flowing to their screens. "They've accessed the Vexari communication network." What they found stunned them all. The network contained transmissions from all across the galaxy. Most were status reports from Vexari commanders, but some were desperate messages from worlds under attack or occupation. "They're still out there," Dr. Wells whispered. "Survivors from the conquered worlds. They're still fighting." Pierce leaned forward, studying the information. "Can we send a message through this network? Can we reach them?" "I think so," said Henry through the comlink. "The system appears to be galaxy-wide. If we broadcast from here, every Vexari outpost and ship will receive it. And presumably, anyone monitoring Vexari communications would see it too." "Do it," ordered Pierce. "Tell them Earth fought back and won. Tell them we have the Arcturian knowledge." The message was simple. "We received your warnings. We're fighting back. The Vexari can be defeated. Contact us on this frequency." The message went out across the vast Vexari network. For several hours, there was silence. Then, one by one, responses began to come in. From a hidden base on a moon of Arcturus. "This is the Arcturian resistance. We thought you had ignored us. We've been fighting from the shadows for decades." From a world called Proxima Centauri. "Our world fell 15 years ago. We've been slaves since then. Is it true you defeated their fleet?" From dozens of other worlds came similar messages. Species that had been conquered or forced into hiding now reached out with newfound hope. Dr. Wells worked tirelessly to translate the incoming communications. "They want to know how we did it. They want to fight back too." "Send them everything," Pierce said. "The shield frequencies, the tactics, the EMP specifications. Everything we learned from the Arcturian library." As information flowed outward from Earth, reports began coming in of uprisings on occupied worlds. The Vexari, who had never faced a serious challenge before, found themselves fighting on multiple fronts. Admiral Drekthar received the news with growing alarm. Rebellions on 7 worlds. How is this possible? His second-in-command displayed a transmission intercept. "It appears the humans are sharing their knowledge with the conquered worlds. They're coordinating a galaxy-wide resistance." For the first time in their history, the Vexari faced the prospect of losing their empire. And it had all begun because Earth had finally checked its maillocks. 6 months after Earth's successful defense against the Vexari, the United Nations Hall was filled with beings from a dozen different worlds. Some looked almost human, while others were so different they needed special environments just to breathe. But they all shared one thing. They had all fought against the Vexari. Ellie Dawson stood near the back of the room, watching the proceedings with a sense of wonder. She had been named the director of the newly formed Interstellar Communications Authority. Her job was to make sure Earth never missed an important message again. Director Pierce addressed the gathered representatives. "Today marks the official formation of the Galactic Defense Alliance. Together, we have achieved what none of us could do alone." On the main screen, a map showed the current state of the galaxy. The once mighty Vexari Empire was shrinking daily. World after world had risen up against their oppressors, using the shield frequencies and tactical information Earth had shared. 23 worlds have regained their freedom," said the Arcturian ambassador, whose tall, slender form stood out even among the diverse crowd. "After 60 years of oppression, our people are free again, thanks to Earth's assistance." Pierce nodded respectfully. "We only used the knowledge you sent us. We're sorry it took us so long to find it." The Arcturian made a gesture that translated as understanding. "The important thing is that you did find it, and when you did, you chose to share it with everyone." In the months since the battle, Earth had undergone remarkable changes. The technology found in the Arcturian library had advanced human science by centuries. Clean energy, advanced medicine, and faster-than-light travel were now realities. But more importantly, humanity had found its place in a much larger community. After the meeting, Ellie returned to her office at the ICA headquarters. The room was filled with advanced communication equipment that monitored transmissions from across the galaxy. Greg Holt, her former supervisor who now worked as her deputy, looked up from his console. The new Mailbox protocol is working perfectly. We've categorized over 10,000 incoming signals in the past week. Ellie smiled. The Mailbox protocol had been her creation, a comprehensive system that prioritized, analyzed, and responded to all incoming transmissions. No message would ever go unnoticed again. "Any word from the exploration team?" she asked. Greg nodded. They've made contact with 3 previously unknown civilizations in the Orient sector. All seem friendly, and all want to join the alliance. The galaxy was changing rapidly. The fall of the Vexari had created new opportunities for cooperation and discovery. Ships from Earth now traveled to distant stars, meeting new species and establishing peaceful relations. As Ellie checked the daily reports, a priority alert appeared on her screen. A new transmission had arrived from deep space beyond the known regions of the galaxy. She opened the message and read it slowly. "Thank you for answering. We've been watching and waiting. There are worse things than the Vexari out there." Ellie felt a familiar chill, similar to when she had read that final Arcturian warning months ago. But this time, Earth was not unprepared. This time, they were not alone. She pressed the alert button that would notify Director Pierce and the Alliance Council. Then she began the process of analyzing the new message, tracking its origin, and preparing a response. As representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to discuss this new development, many remarked on the strange irony of the situation. Earth, the planet that had ignored interstellar communications for 60 years, was now leading the galaxy in communications technology and protocol. A simple administrative oversight, a forgotten quarantine folder, had ultimately led to the defeat of the Vexari and the formation of the first true galactic alliance. And now, as a new challenge emerged from the depths of space, the people of Earth and their allies faced it together, their strength built on the foundation of knowledge shared across the stars. Ellie looked at the message again and began drafting a response. Unlike 60 years ago, this warning would not go unanswered. This time, Earth was listening.